Yesterday, President Biden was asked if he thought that there should be any restrictions to abortion. This is what he had to say.
Mr. President, should there be any restrictions on abortion at all? Any restrictions on abortion at all?
Yes, there should be.
What should they be?
And Roe v. Wade. Read it, man. You'll get educated.
Read it, man. You'll get educated. So the question begs, what did he mean by that? What did he mean by the restrictions in Roe v. Wade? And what would a return to Roe v. Wade mean in practice? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Roger Gannam. He's the Assistant Vice President of Legal Affairs at Liberty Counsel. Roger, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you, Roger. We appreciate it. And you are a legal expert. You know the Supreme Court inside and out. So the question comes from what the president said. What happens if somehow Roe v. Wade is codified? What did the president mean when he said, return to Roe v. Wade, man, read it? What's he talking about there?
Well, I'm not sure President Biden knows what he was talking about because today's Democratic Party, after all, wants abortion available anytime for any reason. Codifying Roe v. Wade, were that even possible, would simply mean that states would no longer have the power to regulate or restrict abortion to the extent that they have today after the Dobbs decision. Roe simply said that states can't regulate abortion with unlimited power because there is a federal right to seek an abortion in the U.S. Constitution. The Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court this term said, no, that doesn't exist. And so states are now free to regulate abortion as they see fit. And thankfully, many states have taken the opportunity to do that.
So what would happen if there was a return to Roe, though? I mean, what kind of restrictions would be there? Because you're exactly right. The president, the Democratic Party themselves, extremists on the issue of abortion, want zero restrictions all the way up to birth. But that did not exist before. So what kind of restrictions would there be?
Well, I think we would go back to the regime before Dobbs. States that want to protect the right of the unborn to live would be vastly limited in how much restriction they could put on abortion. They would have to jump through a lot of hoops and justify any restriction against this idea that a woman has an unlimited right to control the unborn life in her body. So what we would see is laws like we would see more cases like New York and other states that have essentially removed all restrictions on abortion. That's really what the Democratic Party wants. And you can bet any legislation coming from a Democratic Congress headed for President Biden's desk would look a lot more like that than any kind of meaningful restriction on abortion, like we're seeing now throughout the country following the Dobbs decision.
But the other fits as well. I mean, there were other states that had some degrees of restrictions under Roe v. Wade, and it seems as though the president is oblivious to that. What are your thoughts on that end of the spectrum?
Well, I think it's a great time to point out that the law that led to the recent Dobbs decision was a 15-week abortion ban, which really would have put Mississippi in line with many countries in Europe and around the rest of the world, where they do want restrictions on abortion. Most people don't want unlimited abortion in their country. And so the law that Mississippi passed and that led to the Dobbs decision really wasn't radical at all in terms of worldwide abortion restrictions. But we're made to believe that that's radical and that the only way forward is to remove all restrictions and let there be unlimited abortion throughout the United States. And what we're seeing in gubernatorial races and other Democratic versus Republican races around the country is the Democrats' campaign strategy seems to be more abortion pleas. That's what they're promoting. That's what President Biden is promoting. And there should be no doubt that any idea of reasonable restrictions on abortion is not going to be available under any Democratic-led effort.
I think that's an excellent point on multiple fronts that you bring up, Roger. You look at polling nationwide, and it appears as though the Democrats are oblivious to the reality that their position is extremists. Over 60% of Americans do not favor abortion up until birth, and yet they continued pushing this. Why do you think that's so?
Well, the only way that they can win the issue is through fear and disinformation. Many people were led to believe that the overturning of Roe v. Wade meant that abortion became illegal throughout the United States. And of course, that's not true. It simply returned the issue back to the states. One Democratic candidate, is running commercials showing police beating down the doors of women who have had an abortion to haul them off to jail, as if that's what the pro-life cause really wants. But the bottom line is that conservatives, Christians really want to protect mothers and babies at all stages. And so it's only through disinformation and outright lying that the Democrats can win this issue.
Well, I think you're spot on that. And not only do the majority of Americans not want abortion all the way up to birth, but there are other issues that are more important: inflation, crime, all these sorts of things, which the Democrats seem to be totally ignoring altogether. Why are they ignoring it in about 30 seconds?
Well, they're ignoring it because they have no solution. In fact, they are the problem. And so anything they can do to downplay that is what they're going to do. And the only issue that leaves them is this idea of abortion. And so disinformation, misinformation about abortion is the campaign strategy. Thankfully, I don't think America is going to fall for it. And I think we're going to see even more pro-life candidates elected.
Roger, thank you so much. We're coming on a hard break. Roger Gannam,